Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. Disclaimer: all cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. I am guided by spirit. So, when I started looking at the 27 Club mysterious deaths, of course, Avicii came up, and he was just on 28 when he had passed. And I never looked at his case again until the release of Tim on Netflix. And I'm certainly not affiliated with Netflix in any way. But it got me thinking again, and I thought, let's just look at his date of birth as well as the narrative that's been played out, and then the actual days of when things went down. So Avicii, 20 days or so, approximately 20 days before his passing, he went to Oman for a getaway, a break from the noise. There's some things from this particular docu that stood out for me, and one of them was, one of the executives said, well, yes, we were aware that he went to Oman, but he was only meant to go for a week. And you know, when you have these kind of contracts with these higher-ups, and if you don't play the ball, then they play the ball. Now, as the narrative goes, he would pass on April the 20th, 2018. So let's just look at that day first and see what we see here. So, important to also note, we have an 11-2 year, 2018, 11-2. That 11-2 can bring around instability. We saw this in a recent video, so we'll just keep that in mind. There is a conflict here. We have a 20 outcome 2, which is an emotional outburst. And because we have the 11-2s, we have an imbalance of 2s here. And 2s does speak about emotions. It is the water number. So already on this day of his passing, we're seeing an issue. Something is not right. And let me be clear about something. When you see whatever number it is, where there's too many of the same numbers, it means something is not quite right. And we need to look at this with a little bit of skepticism, because what caused this imbalance? So we need to see what caused this imbalance in the case of Avicii. Now, interestingly, in the middle of the day, we see a 24-6. So by all accounts, 24-6 is quite a soft number. It's about family. It's actually a very good number. So for me personally, I find it very strange that we have this number in the middle of this day in the first place. Because what it's saying is, by all accounts, everything should be fine, but we know there's an imbalance of 2. So what is going on here? And when we go a bit deeper into the numbers, there's a hidden 15-6. Now, why is there's, so in other words, what that is telling me, from my interpretation, is 15-6, there's someone hiding in the background here. And on the normal, so for example, for the numerology enthusiast quickly, 20 plus 4 gives us the 24-6, right? But technically we don't see the 15-6. But if we look at the day before, so we have a hidden 23-5. Now we're seeing familiar numbers around these music people, right? There's a hidden community. There's a smaller grouping, 14-5. Where have we seen these numbers before? 33-6, 24-6, 15-6. Liam, put up your hand, please. Now, the reason why we get this 15-6 is we note there is a 14-5 here open. But now it becomes hidden 15-6 because we don't see it just, so we can say there's a hidden 15-6. And it's confirmed in the +9 of the 20th year. Now we see that 15-6 in the open here in the +9. So who is this 15-6? There's a stranger, or let's say there's someone familiar around him, but 15-6 becomes a stranger type number because who is this older male perp in the middle of this scene? And in the +9 we see a 33-6. So for me this day is already problematic. If you don't know, I do death investigations. Of course, I do a lot of them here on YouTube. But in my private practice as well, I do, if people find their loved ones are passing under mysterious circumstances, I'll have a look at it quite easily, no problem. So let's just look at Avicii's date of birth quickly. And we're going to look at his date of birth in relation to the narrative. And the one thing out of this docky that kept on popping up that I wasn't aware of, there's a very strong, in my opinion, feels a little bit forced that he had this insecurity issue. That's fine. You know, the insecurity may have come about because of, for example, him not being an out-and-out musician per se when he started. Let's just say, of course, he developed and grew as he became an artist according to the narrative. But when we're looking at numbers that are, when we talk about insecurity, the number 7 brings around insecurity in people. Now, when you have a 7, outwardly you can be fine, no issues, but internally 7s tend to deal with self-doubt. Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? That's what happens with 7s, generally speaking. It's not necessarily all 7s, but 7 is the number for insecurity. So maybe they call it something else, or they call it insecurity, but when I look at his numbers, he is 9s and 8s. And he has a power number 44-8. This, based on his narrative I wasn't a big Avicii fan. I wasn't in that age group or anything like that. But his music is well known. Of course, I know a few songs of his, but when you've got these numbers, we see the artist numbers, 27-9, and we saw these similar numbers in Kim's show, right? 27-9, the artiste, the ultimate artiste. We see the 27-9 in the likes of Hendrix. All the big artists, 27-9. 17-8 in the middle of the day. And that is the musician, artist, 8 being the music playing out, the performance. 8 is also the technical number when you look at the way he set up his sampling, a lot of technical stuff. So that confirms all the technical stuff. What they say about him here is here in his date of birth true, except for the pushed narrative, and it felt a bit forced, the pushed narrative of insecurity. So I find that already problematic. By all accounts, he's got great numbers here. The way he's presented as the artist is what I'm seeing in his date of birth here. So when I started looking at when did he arrive in Oman, and because I thought I'd look from the day he arrived to the day he passed, but we're looking at about 20 days. But I've got the 3 days leading in. It already gives me tone. So on the day of his passing, we see his numbers as an outcome here, 35-8, 26-8, 17-8. So that does ping on him directly. But when we look at the whole of the numbers, in other words, all the numbers in play, tells me there's something wrong here. Why is all these 2s out of place, right? So, in fact, we would see it on April 16. I'm looking for that 20 outcome 2 again. It's always a good... I'm just going to do it here and just see what we get. I'm only seeing this now. It's always good to see where does the outburst or emotional issue start In that, we can start deriving at a outcome and what actually happened. Now look at the day before, April 16. There's masses of 2s out of balance here. So again, this is linked. We've got a problem here. This doesn't feel right to me. And there's another reason why I feel the story is off. According to the narrative, he used a broken piece of glass or something to cut himself. And even on the day, and we'll go back to April 16, beg your pardon, April 20, there's no knife, glass, cut, blood numbers here. 6, the number 6 is for knife, cutting, blood. Yes, we do see this here, 15, 6, 24, 6. But that speaks more about the people, familiarity. But when we go into the +9, now we're seeing a 33, 6, which is a familiar number, unfortunately, with these music industry death contract motherfuckers, right? So very suspicious. So the day before the 17th, the 16th, because now we're looking for lead-in. Here we see that hidden 20 outcome 2, because now it's in the open, right? So at the time here, of course, he was struggling with issues of being a celebrity, the work, everything become overburdensome, okay? So there would be emotions around. So 3 days before the event, we're seeing a reflection in the day of his passing, of what's going on here. There's a lot of emotions going on here. And again, we see the conflicts with the 11-2, 11-2. So now this is what this is actually telling me. From a legal point of view, right? So April 16, in the real, we're seeing an 11-2, 11-2 conflict, and there's more 11-2s, right? So this is saying there's a law that has been broken. So there's obviously backwards and forwards going on here. Law has been broken. There's a legal issue at play. And when we see 31-4, now if we have a 31-4 after the fact, then that would denote a death, right? But because it's before, and we're dealing with legal issues, and remember, 4s also speak about legal paperwork. So 31-4, and I'm just surmising, and it's suggested here with 31-4, did Avicii break contract? Because 31-4 can be breaking of the contract. And the reason why I say that is because we have the 11-2s. 11-2 speak about the law, contracts, legal arrangements. And when you have a hidden 22, of course, then Tim is not happy. And that's why we have this breakup here. So leading into the situation, April 17, we see the 17-8, which pings on Tim here. On the surface, of course, everything always seems amicable, 12-3. But there's a 21-3 hidden, which means he's not exactly comfortable. Now we start seeing familiar numbers, because once you're out the group, or you're out the network. 32-5, breaking of a network. We see the day before, here it is here. Hidden 23-5, there's a hidden community. So because of this unlawful issue that's going on and breaking of contract, because one of the music executives in the docu said he was due back within a week, right? And of course he had quite a lot of commitments, and obviously by all sounds of it, those commitments came with big muchos monies as well. In one instance they said his fee, and all good to him, his fee for one show could last him 5 years, without having to work. Imagine that. So with the 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 of his 32-5, 23-5, 14-5, and it's actually evident in the +6 day year. Yeah, 41.5. Now we're going to go, I'm just comparing the +6 of the actual day with 3 days before, because we're getting reflections here. That 41.5 is not a good thing. Someone did something to his body here as well. They manipulated the body, is what it's telling me here. So we're back at April 17. So we got all of these negative numbers. So obviously when the music execs get the middle finger or a tap on the nose, I'm not coming to do gigs or anything for you anytime soon. I'm relaxing. Then we have issues, right? So what happens? April 18. We have an 89 at the stop we have an 89 at the start of the day. Problems. We see 13.4 is beginning and ending. So maybe in Avicii's mind, he was going somewhere, doing something else or whatever, not doing music for the time being. But whatever that decision is or was, as we know it, here's problem numbers here: 33.6, 24.6, 15.6. The day before, we see a 19.10.1. Deals, contracts, and when you got a 19.10.1 in play, that is like murder for hire. Because the transaction includes a 9, which speaks about death, murder. Now, let's say for argument's sake, someone flew to Amman, picked up 10 tracks from Avicii, because while he was playing in the dunes and whatever, he still was producing music. So let's say for argument's sake, someone flew into Amman, or even via the internet, he sent 10 tracks. So if that was the case, then I'll say 19.10.1, okay, he's fulfilling a musical obligation, but we know it's not the case. Maybe they stole those tracks afterwards, right? After the 19.10.1, this is the day before, we see a 14.5. There's a team in play. There's a grouping in play. 34.7, and when we see these numbers, I'm sure we saw them in Liam's case as well. 7, music industry, yes. But 16.7, we're talking about some kind of divorce happening here. So, in my opinion already, I'm not seeing, let's say, he committed suicide, because 16.7 is a suicide number, given the right context and numbers, etc., etc. But there's a 20 outcome to the next day, which means there's an outburst. So he didn't die here. So this is telling me this is more about severing ties with the industry, or the industry severing ties with him. There's a familiar person at play here on the day. There's an out of balance 2s, and of course this impacts Avicii Tim here on this day. Now, what's also disturbing, why would there be, if we look at the +6, so this is where action goes down, there's a hidden 33 here. This is an odd number here, 33. Why would there be this hidden number here? There's something that's also not right for me. It's like someone knows, in other words, what it's telling me. It's like the Liam case. What it's telling me is someone knows, and I did see a number, 38.11.2. There's foreknowledge, 38.11.2, foreknowledge. Remember, we have all of these 11.2 conflicts. This is contractual issues here. 38.11.2 is a knowing before anyone knew. So there's definitely background activity going on here. We see the famous 26.8 on the day of his passing in the +6, 26.8. There's a staging. plus 9, we see all of these conflicts again. But now we're seeing a 29, 11, 2. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this was done to Tim because 29, 11, 2 is a serious crime. Comes with consequences, and in most cases, murder, death, 9, because there's a 9. And we see all of these numbers here, 44, 8, so yes. But the problem is we have a hidden 33, 6 here. In my opinion, what we know about the story is not right. Something is not right. We see a 14, 5 in the plus 6. There's bullshit in the air here. There's bullshit in the air here. And unfortunately, I'm not buying that story. And, just watching that documentary, he definitely, obviously, very talented. We can see it in his numbers here and what he achieved in such a short time. But in my opinion, there is very big problems here. And all of these 11 twos in the plus 3 here, this was all about contracts and law. Contracts and law. And unfortunately, when you break contracts with these Satan devil motherfuckers, unfortunately, and we see the famous 27-9. Come on, guys. It's always the same MO. Always the same, in my opinion. And I just felt pushing this insecurity issue is not, that felt to me it was being pushed. So in my opinion, I don't believe this was an out-and-out suicide made to look like. We've seen the 26-8 staging number in the plus 6. There's music executives that aren't happy here. And of course, we know the outcome as it is today, unfortunately. Amazing, amazing talent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are. Do love, engage with them. Have a blessed new year. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace and light. Bye for now.